going for fluency in English in just 5 months.
Wow.
Pretty ambitious, but hey, I'm here for it.
I like it.
Today, we're going to dive into your notes.
Okay.
Alla and Teknigar, 128-2025. This really cool text. Inklestrad text.
Yeah.
They make a pretty good argument that this whole fluency thing might be a little bit more achievable than we tend to think.
You know what's really fascinating about these sources is how they redefine fluency.
Oh, interesting.
It's not about, sounding like some kind of Shakespearean actor or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about just being able to communicate effectively and naturally.
Yeah. Inklestrad text uses this really cool analogy.
Yeah.
It's like water flowing down a river.
I like that.
You just want your words to move smoothly without hitting those mental roadblocks.
Exactly. And it even lays out like 3 key aspects of fluency.
Okay.
So you got smooth communication, feeling confident enough to actually, speak up, and then being able to handle those everyday conversations without your brain short-circuiting.
Okay. So that definition definitely takes the pressure off a little bit.
Right.
But 5 months still feels like a pretty tight deadline.
Yeah. It is a challenge for sure.
Yeah.
Inklestrad text throws out a number that might seem a little intimidating at first.
Okay.
600 hours of focused practice.
Right.
But if you break that down, it's really only like 3 or 4 hours a day.
That's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's less time than most people spend
For sure.
binge watching their favorite shows.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But then the question is, how do we make sure
Exactly.
that those hours are actually effective?
Well, both Inklestrad text and your notes actually really stress active engagement.
Yep.
It's not enough to just like passively listen to podcasts,
Right.
While you're zoning out or something. You really got to be present, like paying attention to the sentence structures. Maybe even repeating phrases out loud.
So instead of just having English on in the background,
Yeah.
I should be like actively wrestling with it.
That's a good way to put it.
Interesting.
Think of it like a workout. You wouldn't just go to the gym and like sit there,
Right.
And expect to get fit.
Yeah.
You have to put in the effort. You have to push yourself. That's where the real gains are going to happen.
So like a language athlete.
Exactly.
What's my training red
All right, well, first of all, both sources are really big on repetition.
Okay.
It's about practicing skills over and over until they become automatic.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a basketball player, shooting free throws.
Right.
Until it's just second nature.
Makes sense.
And this is where the idea of spaced repetition comes in.
Okay.
Have you ever used flashcards?
Yeah, back in the day.
Spaced repetition's kind of like that on steroids.
Okay.
It's about strategically timing your review to maximize long-term memory. And there are even apps designed for this. Anki, which Inklestrad text specifically recommends.
That's really helpful.
Yeah.
So focus, practice, repetition. What about vocabulary? Do I need to like memorize the entire dictionary to be fluent in 5 months?
Inklestrad text says surprisingly no.
Okay.
It emphasizes that mastering around 4,000 of the most common words is enough for everyday conversations. We tend to use a surprisingly limited vocabulary in daily life.
That's a huge relief, honestly.
Right.
Makes this whole thing feel a lot less overwhelming.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, this might surprise you, but both sources actually emphasize listening as being crucial for fluency.
Really?
Yeah.
I always thought speaking was like the most important.
Of course, speaking is essential. But think about it. When you listen, you're training your ear to recognize the natural rhythm and flow of the language.
Right.
The intonation, all those little nuances that make someone sound fluent.
So I'm basically absorbing the music of the language.
Precisely.
By listening.
Yeah, and Alla and Teknigar recommends, turning your daily routine into a listening opportunity. Podcasts during your commute, audiobooks while you work out.
Yeah.
Even watching movies in English with subtitles can make a huge difference.
Okay. I'm starting to see how these pieces all fit together.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, speaking still makes me nervous.
Sure.
I'm terrified of making mistakes. And sounding silly.
It's a common fear, and Inklestrad text addresses that directly.
Okay.
Remember how babies learn to speak? They make a ton of mistakes.
Yeah.
But they don't let that stop them.
Right.
They just keep experimenting, trying again, and eventually they get it right.
So basically, I need to embrace the mistakes.
Exactly. View them as feedback, as stepping stones on your path to fluency. Start by practicing in low-pressure environments.
Yeah.
Talking to yourself using language learning apps.
Okay.
And, don't be afraid to celebrate those small victories.
So it's all about getting comfortable with making mistakes, finding those little wins, and just turning my life into like an English language boot camp.
You got it.
All right.
And speaking of boot camp, Inglesstrad text has some really interesting ideas about immersion that don't involve actually moving to an English-speaking country.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay.
What's the secret to immersion without buying a plane ticket?
Inglesstrad text suggests creating what it calls English-only zones in your home.
Interesting.
Imagine, designating specific areas where you only speak, read, or listen to English.
So like declaring the kitchen an English-only zone?
Exactly.
So I could only speak English while I'm like cooking dinner.
That's the idea. Or maybe your bedroom, becomes your English reading nook.
Right.
Where you only consume books and articles in English.
Okay.
It's about intentionally shaping your environment.
To maximize, exposure to the language.
I'm starting to see how this can make a real difference.
Yeah.
Just like constantly immersing yourself in these little pockets of English.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just physical spaces, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Alain Techningar suggests things like switching your phone and computer settings to English.
Oh, wow.
Surrounding yourself with English media.
Okay.
Even trying to think in English as you go about your day.
That's a whole new level of commitment.
It is.
Yeah.
But I can see how it would force you to constantly engage with the language.
Yeah.
And don't forget about the power of community.
Oh, that's true.
Even if you don't live in an English-speaking country, both sources really emphasize, seeking out online and offline communities of English learners and speakers.
Yeah, there are tons of language exchange apps, online forums, and even local meetup groups.
Yeah.
Where you can find people who are on the same journey. It's a great way to practice your speaking skills in a supportive environment. Get feedback from native speakers.
Right.
And just, share your experiences with people who get it.
It's like having a built-in support system.
It is.
To keep you motivated and accountable.
Absolutely.
Now, Inglesstrad text also includes a sample daily learning schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Which I found really helpful.
Yeah, it provides a great framework, for structuring your practice and making sure you're addressing all 4 key skills.
Right.
Listening, speaking, reading, and writing.
What I liked about it is it wasn't overly rigid.
Yeah.
It suggests things like listening to podcasts in the morning, reading during your lunch break.
Right.
Maybe finding some time for speaking practice in the afternoon.
Yep.
And then winding down with like an English movie or TV show in the evening.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The beauty of it is you can adapt it to your own lifestyle and preferences. The key, as both sources stress, is consistency.
Okay.
It's about making language learning a non-negotiable part of your daily routine.
So even if I only have like 30 minutes to spare, some days it's better to do something and nothing at all.
Consistency is far more important than intensity.
Gotcha.
Think of it like building a muscle.
Yeah.
You wouldn't expect to see results from one intense workout.
Yeah.
It's the consistent effort over time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that really makes the difference.
So it's about creating that habit, that daily ritual.
Exactly.
Of engaging with the language.
Inglesstrad text actually uses a financial analogy.
Oh, interesting.
It compares it to compound interest.
Okay.
Small, consistent deposits over time can lead to significant growth in the long run.
Okay. That's a pretty motivating way to think about it.
Right.
But let's be real.
Okay.
Sure. There are going to be days
Uh-huh.
when I'm tired, unmotivated.
It happens.
And I just want to skip my language practice.
Of course.
What do I do
when those inevitable slumps hit?
Well, both sources offer some really practical tips for staying motivated.
Right.
Alain Techningar suggests things like setting small, achievable goals and celebrating each milestone.
So instead of focusing on this huge goal of fluency in 5 months,
right,
I should break it down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Exactly. Maybe this week your goal is to have like a 5-minute conversation in English with a language partner.
Right.
Or to read 1 chapter of a book.
Okay.
Whatever it is,
Yeah.
make it achievable and then reward yourself when you accomplish it.
I like that, creating those little wins
Yeah.
to keep yourself going.
And another key tip is to track your progress.
Okay.
Seeing how far you've come can be incredibly motivating.
Yeah.
Especially when you hit those rough patches.
So maybe keeping a language learning journal.
That's a good one.
Or using an app to monitor my progress. Exactly.
Okay.
It's a visual reminder of all the effort you're putting in.
Right.
And all the progress you're making.
And Inglesstrad text really emphasizes connecting with other learners, too.
It does. It's so important.
Yeah.
Sharing your struggles and triumphs with people who you're going through can make a world of difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders.
It is.
Encouraging you every step of the way.
You got it.
All right.
And perhaps most importantly, both sources emphasize remembering your why. Why are you putting yourself through this challenging but potentially rewarding process?
Yeah, why am I doing this in the first place?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you feel those moments of doubt creeping in, reconnect with your purpose, whether it's to travel the world, advance your career, connect with loved ones in a deeper way, or simply experience the joy of learning something new.
Yeah.
Hold on to that vision.
It's like having that North Star guiding you.
Exactly.
Through the storms and reminding you of the destination.
Beautifully put.
Yeah.
And it highlights the fact that language learning is not just about acquiring a skill.
Right.
It's about personal growth, transformation, and expanding your horizons.
Wow, I'm feeling super inspired now.
Me too.
So what are some of your biggest takeaways?
You know, I think what stands out to me the most is how both Inklastrad text and your notes reframed fluency as something that's achievable.
Yeah.
Even in a short time frame. It's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making consistent progress and enjoying the journey.
Absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I love how they've given us such practical advice
Yes.
that we can actually apply right away.
It's all actionable.
Yeah. All right. We've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
Let's take a quick pause,
Okay.
and we'll come back for our final segment
Sounds good.
where we'll wrap things up and leave you with some food for thought.
I like it.
Okay, so we're back for our final segment here.
All right.
It's been really cool kind of going through all this with you.
It has. I've enjoyed it.
What really strikes me now is how both Inklastrad text and your notes emphasize that fluency isn't some kind of magical thing that only some people can do.
It's a skill.
Right. It's something that can be developed with the right approach.
And they've done a great job, I think, of really demystifying that process.
Yeah, and breaking it down.
Yeah. Inklastrad text especially, highlights the power of consistent, focused practice over those long, passive study sessions that a lot of people tend to fall into.
Yeah, we've all been there, right? Just kind of listening to podcasts on autopilot. Or half-heartedly flipping through flashcards.
Exactly.
And these sources are saying, like, no, you got to wake up. You got to engage.
Be present.
Yeah.
Work with the language.
Make those hours count.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something that Ala and Tekningar touches upon, too.
Yeah.
Finding ways to make the process enjoyable.
Right. It shouldn't feel like pulling teeth.
Exactly.
Like if you can tap into your interests, whether it's movies, music, podcasts, books, whatever, suddenly it's not studying anymore.
Right.
It's just living your life.
You're just doing what you enjoy.
Right, with a little bit more English mixed in.
Yeah, it's such a powerful shift in perspective.
For sure.
And it ties in really well with the concept of immersion, which both sources, really champion.
Yeah, Inklastrad text even suggests this kind of clever idea of creating these English-only zones.
I love that.
In your home.
Yeah.
Sounds a little quirky, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But I can see the logic.
Right. By designating certain areas or times where you only use English, you're basically immersing yourself in these little pockets of the language.
Throughout your day.
Exactly.
So it's about creating this constant low-level hum of English in the background of your life.
Yeah, like building this invisible world around you.
Right.
Where the language is always present.
All right, so before we wrap up here,
I
want to come back to this 5-month fluency goal.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It is ambitious, no doubt.
For sure.
But after diving into these sources, I'm feeling way more optimistic.
Me too.
Remember, it's not about like reaching perfect native-like fluency.
Right.
In 5 months.
That's not the point.
It's about making significant progress toward that goal.
Exactly. And, these sources have given us the tools and the mindset to do that.
I agree. So as we're kind of leaving this deep dive here, what's the one key takeaway?
Oh, that's a good question.
You want to leave with our listeners?
I would say this. Fluency is not about reaching some magical endpoint. It's a journey. It's a continuous process of learning, practicing, and refining your skills.
Absolutely. Embrace the challenge.
Find joy in the process.
And remember, you are capable. of achieving amazing things.
You are.
With focused effort and a little bit of creative thinking.
I love that.
All right. That's a perfect way to end this deep dive.
It is.
Thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.